Hey harmonizers, we are going to do a bridleless ride with King, and this is actually going to be his first bridleless ride with a neck rope because all of his bridleless has been with just my body up until now, and I haven't actually done a bridleless ride since we were in Florida and did our no tools Liberty restart. So that was where I literally used nothing, not a neck rope, not a whip, not a halter, not a rope, and completely retrained King off the track to riding walk, trot, canter, and doing circles and figure eights and all sorts of stuff. So I got on him and started off by just using some body cues that he's familiar with. And then after he was okay with that, I put the neck rope on and started to teach him what those cues meant. The big reason for starting with the neck rope is that it can be more subtle and a little bit easier to use when we're doing demos, and since we're going to be training for the Thoroughbred makeover, which is later in October, we'll be in Kentucky Horse Park for that, and we'll be doing freestyle. And the neck rope is just a lot easier to use in circumstances like that, especially when your horse can be a little bit distracted. It can help sometimes to have that tool to just kind of get them to check in a little bit more. So I'm thinking about him and what's going to look a smooth routine and being able to do our compulsory moves that we have to do. Who knows, maybe I'll end up taking the neck rope off for a little bit just to show that we can. But overall, I'm looking for a nice smooth performance. You want everything to look really easy in your freestyles that you're working on. So here I'm just working on moving his different body parts, make sure that he understands moving his shoulders, moving his hips, moving sideways, all of those different buttons. I want to make sure that we have communication there before we start doing canter or something like that. I want to make sure that we have all of this down pat. And there he's just kind of looking off to the side at something else. I'm asking him to side pass. And then we end up at this black tunnel thing. And I start to kind of ask him to side pass. You can see I get him to take the one step kind of over it. And then I'm like, this might be a little too hard for you to do. I kind of ask a little bit for the try. And then I say, okay, let's back up. And we're going to side pass on the other side of it just to set him up for success. I didn't want to ask for too much. So I just said, okay, let's side pass with it in front of you. Because we haven't really done a lot of side passing big things like that. We've done a fair bit of side passing poles, but not such a big log. So I'm like, well, let's not get into that right now. So setting it up for success. Doing a couple more little moves around before we end up doing trots or canters and just trying to keep his focus as well. This is a pretty cool setup at this arena because there's a lot going on. The sides are kind of open. The mirrors add that little extra visual distraction. You can see there's other horses riding around in the ring. That's actually Newton going around with Sarah at the same time there. So getting our horses to just focus and pay attention. You can see he really wants to look out at other things. I'm even trying to give him a cookie right now, and he just wasn't paying attention in the beginning. It's one of the reasons why it's another perk to give food rewards during training, because it adds that extra little check-in of, hey, like, look at me, pay attention. I'm going to give you some food. You probably want to check in with me and not be looking out at everything else. Without having to be, super rude and demanding, it's a lot kinder. And there you can see he's thinking about me a lot more. He was like, oh, okay, I'm probably going to get a cookie here. And he turned and he got his cookie really nicely. So that just makes it a happier experience. So then we go off and do some trot stuff. We want to make sure we have steering with our speed. Of course, we have the added element of riding around other horses and stuff like that. But he's doing pretty good. And going around here doing some stretchy trot. Just kind of starting off with some easy turns. We want to not be too difficult in the beginning. Just make some sloping turns, easy turns. Making some figure eights. Riding around all the stuff that's in the arena. Passing Newton, who's standing in the corner. And I'm ultimately looking for relaxation and confidence in this ride. It's our first ride, bridleless, since being in Florida, which was like many months ago. And it's our first ride in that neck rope. So we want to make sure that we stay really understanding of each other. I don't really go in with any expectations of, oh, I'm going to canter, or I'm going to do, halt transitions or whatever it is. I just go in with the attitude of, I'll start with my basics, I'll start with my ABCs, I'll start with the beginning steering patterns, and we'll just see how far we get. And when I feel like we've reached that point of he's earned lots of cookies, meaning he's done a lot of things that I wanted him to do, or we've worked through some things that are challenging, then we'll stop whenever that moment is. I always find as long as you have a bit of a plan of what you're doing and you're willing to let the horse dictate just how far you get, then you're probably going to be set up for success and have a safe ride. So here I'm asking him to collect a little bit more, to lift his frame a little bit more, and he does little bits of starting to kind of collect a little bit. So here I'm just asking him to do a little backup, then he's going to earn a little cookie. So we're just playing around with some different ideas and some different concepts. Here is heading out again at the trot and just asking him to do a little bit of stretching and bringing himself a little bit more collected in that frame. So you can see he's experimenting. He's like, what does she want? And so I'm just trying to experiment with asking him to kind of stretch down a little bit, but not put his nose in the dirt like a Western pleasure horse. So trying to have a little bit more self-carriage, a little bit more impulsion in that carriage, rather than just kind of dropping all of his weight onto his forehand and kind of plodding along that way, asking for a little bit more lift. And there he's giving me a couple little moments there. That's pretty nice there. So he's going to earn a little cookie because he's making some efforts and attempts to do the things that I'm asking. In the beginning, whenever you're teaching a concept, you're really just wanting to reward that try, that attempt in the correct direction, or shall I say the direction of what you're trying to achieve. You can't be asking for perfection. You can't be expecting it to be perfect. You can't expect them to hold it for terribly long, because otherwise they could just get frustrated and give up because it's just too hard to please you. And they don't understand what they're supposed to do. So you're just looking for, okay, that's kind of what I'm looking for. Let's reward it. And then when we're doing just kind of fitness building and trotting around and doing laps around the arena, then my body just goes a little bit more relaxed. And then here, breaking into our little canter, it was a little bit of a run trot into the canter. But again, it's our first bridleless ride in quite a while, first bridleless ride in the neck rope. So we're not being picky. We're just looking for a nice relaxed canter and being able to stop there, and the transition's really good. I like to back up a couple steps after we stop because it just helps really reinforce that halt. Helps to get them a little bit more crisp on that halt transition. There you can see again a little bit kind of a rushy transition into the canter, but we're not going to worry about it. We're just thinking, all right, let's canter around. Let's be safe. That feels pretty good, and then we'll reward that. Here I'm going to go a little bit in the other direction, but we're not going to be picky. We're just asking for canter and directing him. Like there you can see he breaks to a trot, which wasn't when I asked him to break for a trot. So I don't get mad. I don't kick him hard or anything like that. We just kind of regroup, get our bearings together, rebalance, kind of back him up a couple steps here. And then I'm going to reward him anyways because he's stopping, he's listening, and then we're going to try our canter again. So we don't need perfection. We just need that horse trying. We need to try not to have such a big ego of like, I wanted this, or, I know you can do this if I had reins or something like that. We can be a bit more forgiving and really recognizing when our horse is giving us effort. And especially when there's other circumstances of what could be causing them to slow down or not quite get what you wanted them to do. Like if he was steering around another person or got confused in the corner or whatever it is. And then if we can reward our horse for doing the things we want them to do, then they're going to be much more willing to offer more in the future. Here's a little look at a little bit more canter there. So after we kind of regrouped and settled, we picked up that canter again. And now I'm asking him to maintain that canter. This time we don't have somebody kind of blocking us in the corner, so we're able to get that pretty nicely. So I hope you guys enjoyed King's first bridleless ride with a neck rope and enjoyed those few tips.